Hello, and welcome to another episode of Evil Dread. I'm Wyeth.
And I'm Lynn.
And this week, we have Punks vs. Nazis.
Yep.
We watched...
Green Room.
Which...
A tale as old as time. Punks versus Nazis.
Truly an eternal struggle.
Yes. I love this movie. So let's give a little bit of a background on our choosing rationale for this week, I guess. Because we deviated from the schedule for this. It was my week, and previous to this, I wanted to watch I Am Not a Serial Killer, which is a film on Netflix with Max Records as a young man who believes like one of his neighbors may be a serial killer, but he exhibits similar tendencies. I thought that would be interesting. And then America went to shit. So
quick. I mean, we've always kind of been there, but it was a deep plunge last weekend.
On CNN, so constantly, 24/7. So I talked to Wyeth, and I'm like, may not be the best idea in the world to talk about a movie starring a violent young white man this week. Maybe we can do something slightly different, something kind of more on brand for us, and in spite of what happened in Charlottesville. So
we chose something that involves a lot of Nazis being fought.
Yeah, being like murdered.
Even though
justifiably.
Yes. But it's way more gruesome than your average Nazi shoot 'em up than Inglourious Bastards or Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and Inglourious Bastards is hardcore violent, but I feel like this one is much more uncomfortable, more stripped down, more gritty and realistic.
The violence here is photorealistic.
Oh, it's sickening. I'm sick to my stomach when I watch this movie.
I watched it for a second time the other day, and when I started, I'm like, I think I should be able to handle this better. And nope, I still had to pause and take a few breaths.
Well, our kind of origin story with this movie, I wanted to see it a long time, and I finally found it. First day of October last fall, and we were gonna have a movie night, so I brought it over. Me, Wyeth, and Anna Louise all watched it together, and screamed and broke the sound barrier a few times.
It was an exhausting evening.
It was so intense, and we had to follow it up with Halloween Town to balance
out that darkness.
Yeah. So I love this movie.
This movie's fantastic.
This was one we had both already seen before, and recently too, but we felt like it was time to revisit it, especially in light of current events. And honestly, this movie, I think it did Festival 2015, so it's officially came out in 2015.
Yeah. But
it went theaters 2016, and it was ahead of its time, I think, in terms of, I guess, identifying and exposing modern neo-Nazi white supremacist sects, because it's,
or at least it didn't find them as a very young group. People kind of think that's old crusty trailer park people, but there's unfortunately a large youth movement within it.
Definitely, and specifically in punk music. I feel like I've always loved punk music. I have it was huge for me growing up. I'm still very into it. When I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there's a thriving punk scene, so I got into that. I wasn't in any bands or anything, so I'm kind of a poser. But I loved that community, and it's hardcore anti-racist, anti-fascist. But that is that's not everywhere.
No.
I mean, punk traditionally has been white, straight, cis, male, kind of railing against authority, which you kind of are the authority. So there's been a movement lately to kind of reclaim punk as a queer thing, as a thing for people of color and women and femmes. But it's very much alive. Like they say in the film, they're it's mostly boots and braces up there, and they're there's a few of those at every show.
Yeah.
So punk music has kind of always had a like
fringe
dark faction,
element, yeah,
of Nazism.
Mm-hmm. And like, even because I'm more in tune with the metal scene, and there's always been that element at shows I've been to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, back to the movie.
Yes.
Would you like to share the harrowing journey of how does this punk band have things go so terribly wrong for them? Oh God,
they. Can I just say first of all that like this cast is lit. Like I love this cast so much. It's 4 people called the Ain't Rights from DC, Arlington, whatever, that area. And they're on tour, which, as someone who's known a bunch of people who goes on tour, it's like very realistic because they have to siphon gas and they have no money.
Oh yeah, it is in true punk fashion.
Yeah, they're playing, their shows fall through, they're playing at Mexican restaurants for $6 each, whatever.
Yeah.
They're really in dire straits, but like... They explain, well, first of all, they are on the road. They end up at this Pacific Northwest town, and this guy who organized their show told them it fell through, but they're staying at his house, which, you know, is very common when you're touring. You just kind of crash at the organizer's house or whatever. But, yeah, they have no money, their show falls through, and they explain to him, he interviews them for the local college station, and they're like, we don't do social media, we don't release our music on, like, Bandcamp and stuff, because it's about, you know, connecting to a live audience.
Which I think that's just kind of pretentious.
I agree. Yeah. And it kind of what gets them into trouble, right? Yeah. So, this guy is like, I'm sorry the show fell through and you ended up playing lunch at a Mexican restaurant for no money. So there's a place up north that I think I can get you a last minute show, and it's with this guy's cousin, Dan. Mm-hmm. And he warns them that they're ultra right, hardcore, and they're kind of like, well, are they going to be burning crosses? You know, like, kind of joking about it a little bit. And he's like, play your heavier stuff, your darker stuff, you know. So it's kind of, we know something bad's going to happen. Yeah. So.
And, like, the venue, I've been in ratty venues like that. Mm-hmm. Not
in the middle of the Oregon woods.
I can't say I've ever been in, like, a Nazi-run venue, but just, like, disgusting... You look like you're going to get tetanus from just standing there kind of venues. And so, like, I definitely feel the claustrophobia of where they end up.
Yeah, and, like, that's one thing that this movie has going for it. It's probably the most realistic portrayal of, like, the punk music scene that I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Because it's, like... I don't know, just the touring, all of that, the venue, the crowds, yeah.
Like, they showed the exhaustion of touring at the beginning, which I feel like no one ever really talks about.
Yeah. So they get to this venue in the middle of the Oregon woods. It's very isolated, claustrophobic, scary. And Anton Yelchin is kind of the main character. He's... I think the bassist in the band, and in the green room, which is where the bands wait while other bands go on. That's what the movie is named for. He suggests that they play the Dead Kennedys' Nazi Punks Fuck Off as their opener, and so they do, and the crowd is not really having it.
No, because they show up and it's all like neo-Nazis. Yeah.
Like hardcore
skinheads, yeah.
All of them have tattoos. Like SS 88.
These are not like the Richard Spencers that you see on CNN. These are the people who will actually go out and murder people.
Yeah. Red laces. Yeah. So just the scary bald dudes who like carry bats and brass knuckles and stuff. Yeah. So they play Nazi Punks Fuck Off in front of these people, and they do not get a warm welcome. So,
but they kind of went over the crowd with their original songs. Yeah. And there's a great kind of slow motion movement. Like, there's a real poetic cinema where I think a lot of the director, what's his name?
Jeremy Saulnier.
Yeah, Jeremy Saulnier. I love his first movie, Blue Ruin, and there's some really beautiful shots in this.
This movie, it's terrifying and just unrelentingly brutal, but it's also one of probably the most beautiful movies I've seen.
Yeah, the cinematography is great. Like there's like the green.
Yeah.
Like green room.
It's just so cold and like, I don't know, it looks like paintings or something, even though we're in this really gritty, hardcore, gross venue with all these like terrible people. It looks really beautiful.
Yeah, like on the inside it's real. I liked how there's such a big distinction in the cinematography. Like inside it's just really gross and dark and grimy, and then when the camera moves outside, like the green in the forest is just so deep.
Yeah,
it's so good looking.
Yeah, and I think especially a film of this subject matter could turn into hardcore exploitation very quickly, and if it was in the hands of like a lesser director or a lesser cinematographer.
If it was like Eli Roth.
Oh, this would be so gross if this was Eli Roth. It'd be
so bad.
Oh my god. But it lends it like a quietness to moments and like a stillness and kind of just a thoughtfulness to it that I really enjoy.
Yeah, Jeremy Saulnier does lots of quiet moments, which are either really beautiful or really terrifying because you know something is about to happen.
In terms of tone, it is masterful. I've never seen a movie that has quite this tone of like constant danger, but also like inability to do anything about it, I guess.
These punks are way in over their head.
Oh yeah. Okay,
so they finish their set.
Yeah.
And they're packing up, and Anton Yelchin realizes he forgot his cell phone.
Well, he gets it from Maybe. Alia Shawkat is in this.
I call her Maybe the whole time.
Funke. I have the biggest crush on her. She's a babe, and I love her. So I'm very glad she's in this movie.
Well, he goes back for her phone in the green room, where bands get ready.
Yeah.
He walks in, and a girl had just been murdered.
Yeah.
By this monstrous man.
The headliner, had I don't know, an argument or something with this girl and her friend, and the girl is on the floor with a knife sticking out of her head. Yeah. Like her temple.
Her temple, yeah.
Which is...
It's the most disgusting...
Yeah.
Well, what am I saying? There's lots of disgusting moments. But the moment where I realized, I was not prepared for this movie when I first saw it, was where... So they're in the room, they're trapped with the other bands.
They're like, we're not going to let you leave now. And you've seen what happened, and you're trying to call the police, so we're going to take your phones, we're going to take everything, and now you can't leave. So
while they're trapped in there, Maybe says, like, maybe she's still alive. And the guy who killed her goes over and, like, shakes her head with the knife.
He's trying to pull the knife out of her head. He drags her across the floor a little bit.
It's stuck in so deep, and
it's so...
The way her head moves with it is just...
Yeah. I think we can, especially the movies we watch, like, we can get really desensitized to violence, and for some reason, this movie does it in such a stripped-down, real way that made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
Like, it's so... not over the top and not like glamorized or romanticized.
Yeah, because we're used to like things like Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah, where it's so over the top.
Or even like Crimson Peak, where it's more like almost poetic.
Yes.
But this is just like emergency room level realness.
Yeah, and it's not badass in any way.
No.
Not at all.
Like,
it's so scary.
These characters get maimed.
Yeah. So basically the movie is like a siege movie where they are trapped and they are trying to plan and trying to get out. Basically unfolds in real time, which was super uncomfortable for me.
It's exhausting because it's a real crawl.
Well, and even when we're not with the band in the room, kind of having to fight for their lives, we're being shown just the banal, everyday, like, work life that these Nazis have, where they're like, okay, I need $300 more to pay off this, stabbing we're gonna set up to distract the police. Oh, we need 3 of your dogs, which we're going to use to rip the throats out of these kids.
Yeah.
It's so relaxed and just...
Sir Patrick Stewart is the head Nazi, and he's terrifying.
So scary.
In that, like, how clever he is, but also how, like... But it's not, like, cackling overmind. It's, like, calm, rational, I have a plan for everything.
Yeah. Everyone in this movie is really smart. There's no, like, it's like last week's. It's like The Orphanage. Which, also, listening back to The Orphanage, our podcast was like 90% plot summary. So we're gonna get into more.
Well, there's a lot of plot in The Orphanage.
That was some intense plot.
There's not a lot of plot with Green Room.
No,
it's mostly survival.
We'll get more into, like
talking
our thoughts about it and stuff. No one is dumb in this movie, which makes it harder to watch.
Yeah.
Which is something that has been recurring in our selections, I think. We're like, these are really smart people who are trying really hard to get out of this situation, and they don't mess up.
They try their best. The drummer guy who...
Oh, God, I love him.
he was the real MVP until he just chose wrong.
Yeah.
The Punk's drummer... Like, at first, he seems to be, like, the most competent one. Like, he's the one ordering all the other punks about how to defend themselves.
Yeah, he, like, knows MMA or something like that.
He just knows how to fight.
He knows how to break this guy's arm and all that.
Like, he takes on a Nazi, like, a 300-pound, 6-foot Nazi, and breaks his arm and chokes him out.
Yeah. That guy is a badass.
Yeah.
I love him.
And then he makes one wrong decision and got stabbed to death by a group of skinheads.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not one of those movies where it's such well-worn territory that you're like, I would have made the right decision in that moment. You know? I probably would have died immediately. Yeah, like, it's not like I could have done this better. This is a choice that we all know to make in a horror movie.
Like, all the choices people make are choices I feel like I would have.
Yeah. And honestly, Anton Yelchin and Imogene Poots, which we had a big, long discussion of how to pronounce her name. But, so that's what we're going with.
So we'll see what comes out
Wyeth went Imogen, which sounds a whole lot like emoji to me, and I think that's really funny. But anyway... she and Anton Yelchin kind of survive through luck.
Pure luck.
Right? And it's
I mean, they get really clever at the end.
Everyone's really clever.
Yeah.
Like, Alia Shawkat has, oh God, this is the only movie I've seen where a fluorescent light tube has been used as a weapon.
That's not true. You saw The Raid, and a man gets stabbed in the jugular with a fluorescent light.
But it's like, they're really utilizing everything. It's great. But the drummer is actually like the ugly younger brother on Peaky Blinders, and I'm like, throw a beard on that guy, don't give him a stupid haircut, and we're good. I'm like, oh no, that is good for him, But yeah, they all meet their ends. Well, 3 of the band members meet their ends in really horrific ways,
and some of the Nazis do too.
But they like deserved it though, because they're like Nazis.
Yeah. With the moment of like, I'm always about to say like the worst moment of gore. Then I realize
there's a lot.
Everything is the worst. But when things really escalate,
when we started screaming the first time we saw it.
So. At the moment, Anton Yelchin is trying to work on a trade.
Oh, God.
His wrist almost gets severed.
Yeah. It comes back. He's like, I'll give you this gun if you give me this cell phone, or something like that. Something to that effect. Because he's really trying to negotiate. He puts his arm out, and they chop it up with a machete, and it is, like, dangling
by... Like, you see bone.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And they have to duct tape it back.
Yeah, like a sleeve of duct tape. And he is screaming. Like,
Anton Yelchin does such a good job in this movie. he's always on the verge of tears, and I feel like that's how someone would probably actually be.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's not a John McClane type.
No, and none of them are. Even the drummer, like, he's like, I can do this, but I'd rather not. You know? Like, wow.
And then at the same time, where he gets his arm almost cut off, the big bouncer Nazi gets choked out, and Imogene.
Good job.
Slits open his stomach with a box cutter. And
which was, when we watched this the first time as a group, I believe we had to pause it.
Like, we paused it, and we all walked into the kitchen and just stood there.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, who has the sweet tea flavored whiskey?
Yeah. Just...
It's one of the most violent movies I've ever seen. And it's not one of the most violent movies I've ever seen. You know, it's like...
Like, there's no geysers of blood.
It's the most effective violence I've ever seen to make me feel scared, I guess.
Imogene does such a great job with her role as a friend of the murdered girl.
Yeah.
She comes across very detached from reality just from the initial violence.
Yes.
And then I love the scene where they cut the power for a moment.
Yeah.
And everyone in the green room starts arguing, and all of a sudden the only light is her holding up a lighter. And she's like, careful there.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great moment.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And it's weird because no one wants to trust her, right? Because she was at this show.
Yeah.
And there's a part I didn't notice the first time. The camera's somewhere else. And you hear Anton Yelchin being like, well, don't trust her, she's a Nazi. And she's like, I'm not a Nazi. And he's like, well, why? How did you fall in with this group or whatever? And she's like, the people who did bad things to me weren't white. And he was like, well, look around. Are these a bunch of great white people? Right? And it's just like, I don't know. It's so, like, that hint of backstory is really tantalizing, but also, like, fuck her, you know, because I don't know, it's super complicated.
So she just kind of ends up with them out of survival.
Yeah.
A haircut, though,
that's called the Rat Queen kind of haircut.
It's intense. It's
like shaved, not all the way off, but pretty short on the back, and then like front is long and bangs. Yeah, I've seen that before. But yeah, she's probably the most hardcore survivalist out of all of them.
Oh yeah.
Which is, yeah.
So another just terrifying moment was the dogs. The introduction of the dogs.
Can we go back really quick? I just forgot. I watched this a while back. I always put on a movie before I go to bed, or like Frasier or something, to just like lull myself to sleep. And I'm like, Green Room would be a good movie to lull myself to sleep to, I guess. I don't know. I really love this movie. I watched it quite a few times. I enjoy it very much. And the thing about the violence in this, I realized, because I was listening for it. I was laying down, I didn't have my glasses on, and I was listening for the box cutter scene. And there is no music sting. I missed it when I was listening for it, because there is absolutely no like traditional like crescendo and then or whatever, you know, like horror music. It all happens.
It's a quiet
immediately with no build up, which makes it worse.
Oh, it happens so suddenly that that just amplifies just how like shockingly horrific it is.
Yeah. So that's one kind of technical thing I thought was really cool.
I like that Saulnier was able to hold back on, like, he didn't go overboard with sound.
Yes, which takes, I feel like the tendency is to do that in horror, which, you know, usually devolves into jump scares.
And I think music can do a great job of amplifying jump scares, like It Follows.
Yeah. Which was kind of in the tradition of, like, the John Carpenter Goblin kind of 80s, late 70s, like, or whatever. I did expect him to use more punk music in this movie. I was watching last night and I'm like, the credits song is CCR.
Yeah. Yeah, I just realized that the other night where I'm like, wait, is that John Fogerty?
Yeah. Wyatt loves John Fogerty.
I love some CCR, yeah.
You were talking about the dogs.
Yeah, the dogs in this are terrifying.
Yeah, which we're the kind of people who are like, the dog in the movie is innocent and I don't want to see it dead. I don't want to see this dog killed. These dogs are not innocent. They will rip your throat out. They are trained to murder people.
They're trained to attack if you give them a German word.
Like bite attack or whatever. Yeah.
And so we have a couple characters that get killed by the dogs.
Yeah, in a, like, Ramsay Bolton level
violence.
Like, I'm gonna eat your face off.
That scene of where the lead singer gets his throat
oh my god,
torn
he's
out.
the first one who dies.
Yeah.
Of the main group, and that's terrifying. And it doesn't kill him.
That was a puppet.
What?
That dog was for the close-up scenes. They built a puppet dog. That's
so weird.
And it looks really good.
Yeah, okay, but like I feel like also people are gonna be like like looking away. So,
oh yeah,
I definitely was. That like ruins this. I'm like, I don't like to think of this movie as having special effects because it's so, you know what I mean? Like, I know people didn't really get their throats ripped out by dogs, but also, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, who would be comfortable laying there with, like,
a
pit bull on
of course not. Yeah. This movie's so, like, viscerally real to me that even thinking of it as something with, like, a production is so weird.
Well, I went looking to see how they did all the gore. Mm-hmm. And I stumbled upon an article about that scene.
Wow. Yeah. It's really difficult to watch at times.
Oh, when Maybe gets killed by the dog.
Ugh, God. Yeah, and it's in the most brutal way possible.
Oh yeah. Like they have finally gotten a weapon. Mm-hmm. They got a shotgun and she shoots at the dog as it's charging and she clips it and just keeps on coming. Mm-hmm. And it's awful.
It's horrific.
And then you feel almost sorry for the dog at the end.
I know. Well, I don't know. I was kind of reading into that. Because at the very end, we see the dog, it like got loose. And
one of the dogs ran away because the punks found out that mic feedback, scares the dogs. And so one of the dogs ran away. Mm-hmm. And throughout the rest of the movie, the camera cuts to the dog wandering along a road.
Yeah.
And so, like, at the end, there's a shootout with the last remaining punks, and they kill the last group of Nazis. Mm-hmm. And the dog shows up, and the music kind of builds as though it's going to attack.
Yeah.
But it just goes and lays down next to its Nazi owner.
Yeah.
And it's a surprisingly sad moment.
Well, and they're shooting at it, but they're out of bullets.
Yeah.
Which is so... There's something so, like, desperately sad about that. I don't know. Like, that everything's a threat now, and I don't know. It's a very, like, for a movie about Nazis, it's a weirdly, like, morally complex movie.
Yeah. Like, there's the one Nazi who doesn't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. He turns himself in.
Yeah.
He's the one who gets the police. Isn't he the main guy in Blue Ruin?
He is.
Macon Blair?
He is also... Jeremy Saulnier has a thing for, like, crying male protagonists because all through Blue Ruin, his eyes are just, like, constantly working on their waterworks.
Okay, cool. I think he did... Macon Blair, who also produced this movie, and he, like, works with Jeremy Saulnier. He directed I'm Not at Home... I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, or something like that. It's the Elijah Wood, Melanie Linsky...
Okay, I got that confused with I'm Not a Serial Killer.
Yeah, that
one sounds interesting.
Yeah. I don't feel at home in this world anymore, which, Jesus Christ, that's the, like, are we taking the Fall Out Boy film title route where it's just, like, 3 sentences?
A paragraph, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd like to see that one. Yeah, it's, I guess, for a movie that is incredibly kind of action-packed and scary and super stressful, it's also really contemplative.
Yeah, there's, like, especially in the still moments.
Yeah, and it gives you time to, like, think about the true horror of this, which is, these people exist, you know?
Like, I really like that they're like, yeah, Nazis suck, but that doesn't mean we can't give you developed characters.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, we chose this movie, like, because somehow, before all of this happened, this kind of made me realize that this still existed, right? Like, that's what it did for me when I watched it last October, which, you know, now looking back, I'm like, of course this still exists. Like, don't be an idiot. Like, this is happening right now. But, I don't know, it really kind of exposed me to modern Nazi ideology in a way that was like...
Neo-Nazism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost saw this in theaters, and I can't even imagine what that experience would have been like.
Yeah, no. But yeah, and I was thinking about it last night, like, in preparation for this. Not that we prepare at all, other than watching the movies. But, is this a horror movie?
Not in the traditional sense. It has... I mean, you could definitely call it a horror movie, and I hate people who have to tell themselves that movie's not a horror movie in order to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it has there's the fear and tension. It has the gore. It has terrifying villains.
Yeah. My thinking was, it's a more serious horror movie. It's one of the most serious horror movies I've ever seen. And I feel like, since it doesn't have, you know, a masked killer or, you know, all of these supernatural tropes or whatever that we usually associate with horror, it's probably a movie that, you know, pretentious film critics would call a thriller.
Yeah.
It's like Silence of the Lambs level, where it's obviously a horror movie.
Yeah.
But... Or even like Seven. It's obviously a horror movie, but because it's elevated and because the directing is so well done...
There's such a strong art direction.
Yeah, and because it's so sophisticated in a way, I feel like people would be hesitant to call it horror.
Well, yeah... It's like when The Others came out, and it was so well regarded that people just called it a psychological thriller.
Yeah, but that movie's about ghosts.
Yeah,
okay, like that's a horror movie.
Come on. But yeah, it's so well crafted. It owes a lot more to John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is a fantastic zero budget movie. And I wish there were more gutsy movies like this.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking, speaking of, like, budget and stuff, like, it's obviously pretty low, but it looks incredible. It looks, you know, like Emmanuel Luzbecki or something, good cinematography. But there's so much Nazi paraphernalia and, like, white power stuff all around. I'm like,
how did they get
where
all
did you
that?
Get that? Did you, like, buy it from people? Because then you're kind of funding, like, white power movements. Did you burn it all after?
I hope they had a bonfire.
Yeah, because I'm like, it looks realistic in that there are signs and flags and stickers and bumper stickers, graffiti everywhere that say, like, white pride.
The bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Were things you would see at like a rally nowadays.
Yeah. So that was one question I had. I was like, did y'all ethically decorate this? And is it at all ethical to, you know, print your own Nazi shit? Like, I don't think so. I don't know. But the effect is wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, in the film. It makes it look really realistic.
It feels so grounded.
Yeah. So yeah, in the shadow of Charlottesville, this movie was even more terrifying, I think, than when I saw it as a person
on the other side of Trump's presidency.
Yeah, as a person who thought we're gonna get through October and things are gonna be okay. You know.
Well, we were so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, I guess we were stupid, but we also spent election night together.
Which was even worse
horrific.
Than watching Green Room for the first time.
We should have just watched Green Room on election night. It would have been the same experience. I had similar thoughts and feelings.
I don't know. Green Room has a happy ending. We haven't had that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's true. Oh yeah. We got to do, what's your desert island band?
Desert island band. Well, I have not gotten sick of the Nationals since early college, so
okay,
I gotta stick with them. I do love them. New album coming soon.
So for those of you guys who haven't seen Green Room, at the beginning, the punk guy that hosts them, who does their interview for like the local college station, he's like, and I ask everybody what their desert island band is or whatever, and they're all trying to impress each other and be like Cro-Mags, the Misfits, the Damned,
they're all about
Poison Ivy, and God, that's so true. Like, everyone in the punk scene, or who claims to be punk, it's always a kind of
name drop list.
Yeah, it's like, I'm more punk than you, which is one thing I always felt when I was in Albuquerque. I'm like, I don't, live with 17 other people in one room and, like, make my own teas and stuff and, like, play the banjo, so I'm really not that punk. Like, I'm actually posing.
So they name drop all these kind of, like, iconic punk bands, and then later in the movie, when they're about to die,
they're about to, like, run out of the room. They have all their weapons, and they're like, okay, this might be the last time we talk to each other as friends. And Alia Shawkat says,
Simon Garfunkel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
And what's his name? The drummer is like Prince.
Yeah.
This, like, hardcore badass guy. He's like Prince all the way. And the lead singer's like, still Misfits? Like, I didn't lie.
Yeah. We never hear Anton Yelchin's.
Well, that's the kind of the running thing. During the radio show, he's like, I can't think of anything. Mm-hmm. And then he still can't think of anything when everyone's being honest. And then the very last shot of the movie, it's him and Imogene Poots.
Just exhausted, sitting in the woods.
Waiting for the police. And he says, I finally know my desert island band. She goes, tell it to someone who gives a shit.
Yeah. Hard cut to John Fogerty.
The end. It's so nihilistic and just like, we're not friends. Like, we may have survived this together, but like, your friends are dead.
This was the antithesis to like every action movie, like where the guy, like, in a Sylvester Stallone 80s flick, they would have fallen in love or something.
Oh yeah, there would have been like him and Imogene Poots like would have rode off into the sunset on a motorcycle or whatever. But no, his arm is probably gonna have to be amputated.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm still like a white supremacist. So yeah, this is, well, it has a happy ending in that two of them survive, but I don't think it's gonna be really good for either of them.
So what about you? What is your desert island band?
Oh jeez. I'm gonna pull an Anton Yelchin. I don't know. I was thinking,
do we have to go through a life or death scenario?
What?
Now?
I guess, yeah. Like, I'll call you when we've survived. So I'll think about it for the rest of the episode, and then you're gonna be like, tell it somebody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, do you have any recommendations for this week?
I think so. I remembered while we were talking, I'm always the worst about personal picks or whatever, because I always think of it while we're talking. Wyatt always has it pre-prepared. So I'm going to go ahead and do one also featuring Imogene Poots and Anton Yelchin, because...
Oh, I see where this is going.
They've co-starred in, like, a lot together.
Yeah.
But in 2011, I think, they did the remake of Fright Night, which I love a lot.
I liked it too. I saw it in theaters.
Me too. Me and Tyler, and we were like the only two people in that theater.
I went with a couple friends, and we were also the only ones there.
It made no money. Oh my god. But it's so... If you guys are familiar with the first Fright Night, it came out in, I believe, 1985. And it's like, you know, kid thinks his neighbor's a vampire. Mm-hmm. By the book, really cool effects. He gets like a horror movie host on TV to help him, Roddy McDowall. In the remake, and I'm not the biggest fan of remakes. I don't hate them. I don't like go out of my way to like
I'll give them a chance if they're good.
Yeah, for like it, like we're down for it. You know,
high hopes.
We're just gonna talk about that every week. But this one, it took the source material and it reimagined it in such a really interesting, cool way. It was written by Marty Noxon, who was one of the head writers on Buffy. So I was like, okay, I'll do this. And it had a great cast, but it relocated the action to a suburb of Las Vegas. So it's super, like, desolate and this weird carbon copy suburb where all the houses look exactly the same in the middle of the desert, which was really cool visually.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and instead of a horror movie TV host, David Tennant plays like a
David Blaine,
Chris Angel type Las Vegas stage magician who wears leather pants and drinks Midori.
David Tennant was perfect in that role.
He was so wonderful. And him and Anton Yelchin, who plays Charlie. Charlie believes his neighbor's a vampire. His neighbor's played by Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell steals the show.
Yeah, he's great. Imogene Poots is Amy. which she's really good. She's more, I think, layered in the remake than the original.
Well, most things are more layered than the original.
Yeah. Oh my god, the original's
fun,
a mess. It's really stupid.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is fine with me. But, and even Evil Ed is Christopher Mintz-Plasse. And he does...
A lot more grounded.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, it's just a really fun, cool, you know, teen supernatural horror movie.
Aren't there cameos by the original cast?
Yeah, Chris Sarandon gets killed by Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Like, he pulls over and he, like, has a car accident or whatever. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Whoa!
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Toni Collette's in this movie. Like, this movie has a somehow the most lit cast anyone could ever ask for. And it made no money, and most people hate it. So what? I'm gonna do my...
I always felt like it got quite a bit of...
Well,
love.
I think on Tumblr, or Horror Tumblr, which is where, you know, I discuss...
Where you lurk.
A lot. I, discuss horror movies a lot on there with other people. I've seen a lot of hate, because the original is so beloved.
Well, I feel like 80s horror is such a sacred cow for horror fans that any criticism is...
unwelcome.
Yeah. I mean, dear God, think about Ghostbusters.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think misogynist male nostalgia is incredibly powerful in terms of that. But yeah, I guess if you want to see Imogene Poots and Anton Yelchin, R.I.P., in better days, in a less emotionally wrenching and difficult to watch film, the Fright Night remake is really good.
I'll back you up on that.
Okay. What about you?
Well, my recommendation is a video game, actually. It's Wolfenstein, The New Order.
Okay.
It came out a few years ago, and so continuing with the theme of we hate Nazis.
Ooh, that's a good theme. Yeah. That's our theme every week. We may not say it,
We're all about that. And this game, do you know the Wolfenstein series?
I don't. Is it like the sister series of Castlevania?
No.
Okay.
Wolfenstein is one of the earliest shooters. It came out shortly after the first Doom game.
Okay, yeah.
And it's all about shooting Nazis.
Cool.
Yeah. So the New Order came out a couple years ago, kind of a reboot of the series, and it turned out to be, amazing.
Okay.
This game came out of nowhere for everyone, and not only is, great... I mean, it feels great shooting Nazis. The gun controls are great, but it's a surprisingly affecting story. Cool. Throughout the game, you're kind of there's a lot of human element to it. You encounter various characters who have been just affected by Nazis. It's set in like an alternate reality where Nazis won the war.
Okay.
Thanks to like supernatural abilities and whatnot.
Okay, girl. So like if Indy didn't find the Ark of the Covenant.
Right. So yeah, it's like that. And so it's I really recommend it for anyone who has access to a console or a PC that would play it. But it's like surprisingly like tear-jerking in moments. Like there's a real sense of sadness to it, which I would not expect from a game where you can wield dual rocket launchers while shooting a giant mechanical Nazi dog.
Nazi dogs, also another recurring.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So yeah, we're really running the gamut between like hardcore realism to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I say one more thing about Green Room?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
You can always talk more about this movie.
Oh, thank you. I guess I did notice this, or I didn't remember it, but when I was watching it last night, they kind of do a not really a pan, but like a montage, I guess, where it's like in one continuous pan, where they cut between, and it's like the bodies on the ground, the venue, Patrick Stewart dead, all the friends dead by the van, the guy who went to go get the police in the woods, like hearing gunshots, and then they cut to the two guys from the band, the headliner, who killed the girl.
Yeah.
And one is passed out with a needle in his arm, and the guy who killed her, who is the most disgusting person ever put on film, maybe, because he goes up to the band and he's like, what was your second to last song? And Anton Yelchin's really scared, but he's like, oh, it was called this. And he was like, that went hard. That's the one I did her to.
Oh,
it's so
the fact
disgusting.
that he whispered while saying all that was terrifying.
And he's the one who like dragged her across the floor by the knife.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there like watching TV and eating cereal.
They were dead. Or he was like vegetative because Sir Patrick Stewart gave them the tainted cocaine or meth or whatever.
What? Okay.
Remember the comment?
Oh my god. I didn't even realize that.
Remember the comment he made to the manager? Mm-hmm. He said that you gotta watch out for tainted stuff that's been going around.
Yeah.
And that was a hint that he gave them tainted meth.
Well, that's good. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, see, I thought I was like, oh, these people didn't even get punished. They're the ones that caused all of this, like, terrible carnage. And they're just sitting there, you know, eating cereal and watching TV. But that's cool, too.
I mean, I hope my interpretation's right.
Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. And then they cut back to the kid in, you know, Seattle or whatever.
With
just vacuuming.
Huge mohawk.
And he set off all of this by sending him up there. It's kind of like, if not for this, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, it traces back the chain of events.
Which is, really harrowing and scary.
But anyway, Wolfenstein: The New Order. The sequel comes out on my birthday, October 27th. So okay. I'm really hoping that it lives up to...
So does Stranger Things Dose.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in October.
Yes.
Ton of concerts. Well, for me.
Okay, yeah. Would you listen to the Ain't Rights? Because they're more hardcore, I think. I'm not super into hardcore. I'm more into, like, melodic punk.
I think, like, high school and early college, Wyeth would have.
Okay.
I listened to like a lot of Converge back in the day, but now I'm more kind of prog metal. Yeah.
See, I used to do like The Clash was my big one. And now I'm more like Descendants, Dead Kennedys, Richard Hell, stuff like that.
And I would say I never really listened to like hardcore punk. Like old school, old Death Heaven is almost there, but that's kind of between that and like Mastodon. That's kind of the two genres I listen to the most.
Yeah, I mean, for me, now we're just getting into music stuff, but I always liked punk because it had all of the melody and simplicity of pop music, but like with lyrics about things I'm interested in, and it was, you know, more fun to listen
Socially
to.
conscious, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the bands that got me into metal were Rage Against the Machine and System of a Down, which they were very political.
Yeah.
I feel like they need to come back right now.
Oh, God, yeah. This is just a call to arms. Like, we told you a few weeks ago to make gay horror movies, and now we're telling you to, like...
bring back our big political bands.
Yeah, like, make more anti-fascist punk music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another week.
Watch Green Room if you're in the mood to get angry about the state of our union.
Make sure to have something prepared afterwards, something like Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Punch your local Nazi.
Happy. Yeah.
Don't surrender to fascism.
Be an ally.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to your friends who are being persecuted.
Or just be a decent human being. It's not that hard.
Yeah, you know. I mean, stay informed. Don't hate people because they're not white. How's that?
Perfect.
Seems easy, right? If only our president could master it.
That and spelling.
Well, that's kind of good because he may not be able to write the order to nuke us.
Well, let's hope it's not just a big red button. Well, on that note, we love you.
We love you, and we hate Nazis, and we are here for our listeners who are not Nazis. And
Nazi punks
people who need support. Nazi punks, fuck off.
That's right.
The end.
Bye-bye.
He behaved like a man demented, obsessed, utterly lost.